She almost didn't go. Standing in front of the mirror in her small apartment, Emma Carter stared at her reflection and sighed. Her brown hair was tied into a messy bun, and she wore the plainest clothes she could find: an oversized gray sweater, loose jeans, and old sneakers. She even skipped makeup. Tonight was a blind date arranged by a friend, and honestly, Emma didn't believe it would go anywhere. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly imagine, was that the man waiting for her at that restaurant was a billionaire. And the moment he saw her, something unexpected happened. He didn't see an ugly outfit. He saw something far more beautiful. Before we dive into this heartwarming story, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Stories like this remind us how powerful kindness can be. Welcome to Kind Choice Corner, where simple acts of kindness can change lives. Emma Carter was 26 years old and worked as a veterinary assistant in Chicago. Her job didn't make her rich, but she loved it. Every day she helped injured animals, comforted nervous pet owners, and sometimes stayed late just to make sure a sick puppy was okay. To Emma, kindness was simply part of life. But life hadn't always been kind to her. A few years earlier, Emma had dated someone who cared far too much about appearances. He constantly criticized the way she dressed and told her she should try harder to look impressive. Eventually, Emma realized she didn't want to live her life trying to impress people who only cared about the outside. So when her co-worker Sarah insisted on setting her up on a blind date, Emma had one rule. "I'm not dressing up," Emma said. Sarah laughed. "Why not?" "Because I want to know if the guy likes me for me," Emma replied. "Not for how I look." That evening, Emma walked into a small Italian restaurant downtown. The place smelled like garlic bread and fresh pasta. Soft music played in the background, and couples chatted quietly over candlelit tables. Emma looked around nervously. Then she spotted him. A tall man stood near the window, wearing a navy blue suit. His dark hair was neatly styled, and he looked calm and confident. When he saw Emma, he smiled warmly. That was Daniel Reed. Emma had no idea that Daniel Reed was one of the youngest tech billionaires in the country. Daniel approached her with a friendly expression. "Emma," he asked. She nodded. "Hi, you must be Daniel." He pulled out a chair for her. "Thank you for coming," he said kindly. Emma felt slightly embarrassed sitting across from someone who looked so polished while she looked, well, intentionally unimpressive. But Daniel didn't seem bothered at all. In fact, he seemed genuinely interested. "So," he said with a smile, "tell me about yourself." Emma relaxed a little and began talking about her work at the veterinary clinic. She told him about the stray dog she helped rescue last week, and the elderly cat that always hissed at everyone except her. Daniel listened carefully. Not the fake kind of listening people do while waiting for their turn to talk. Real listening. He asked questions. He laughed at her stories. And slowly, Emma began to forget she was on a blind date. Meanwhile, Daniel was thinking something surprising. Most people he met knew exactly who he was. They Googled him before dates. They showed up dressed like they were attending a red carpet event. But Emma? She clearly had no idea. And that was refreshing. Halfway through dinner, something happened that caught Daniel's attention. An elderly waitress accidentally dropped a tray near their table. Glasses shattered across the floor, and the woman looked embarrassed and nervous. Some customers looked annoyed. But Emma immediately stood up. "Are you okay?" she asked the waitress gently. The woman nodded, though her hands were shaking. Emma knelt down and helped pick up the pieces. "It's all right," Emma said softly. "Everyone has rough moments." The waitress smiled gratefully. Daniel watched the whole moment quietly. That small act told him more about Emma than anything she had said all evening. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was simply kind. After dinner, Daniel walked Emma outside. The city lights reflected off the wet pavement after a light rain. Cars passed slowly, and the cool night air felt peaceful. Emma rubbed the back of her neck nervously. "I should probably apologize," she said. Daniel looked confused. "For what?" Emma laughed awkwardly. "For this." She gestured at her oversized sweater. "I kind of dressed down on purpose." Daniel raised an eyebrow, amused. "Really?" She nodded. "I've had bad experiences with guys who only care about looks. So I figured if someone could enjoy dinner with me looking like this, maybe they're a decent person." Daniel chuckled softly. "Well," he said, "I'm glad you did." Emma looked surprised. "You are?" "Yeah," Daniel replied. "Because it showed me something important." "What's that?" "That you're real." Emma smiled slightly, though she still didn't know the full story. They said good night, and Emma walked home thinking the evening had been unexpectedly nice. But she still assumed Daniel was just a well-dressed professional with a normal life. The next morning, Emma arrived at work early. While cleaning the clinic's front desk, she overheard Sarah talking excitedly with another co-worker. "Did she tell you?" Sarah whispered loudly. Emma walked over. "Tell who what?" Sarah turned around dramatically. "Emma, do you know who your date was?" Emma frowned. "Daniel." "Yes," Sarah said slowly. "Daniel Reed." Emma shrugged. "Okay." Sarah grabbed her phone and pulled up an article. Emma's eyes widened as she read the headline. "Tech billionaire Daniel Reed launches new charity initiative." Emma nearly dropped the phone. "Billionaire?" she gasped. Sarah nodded. "Yep. As in, extremely rich." Emma covered her face in embarrassment. "Oh my gosh. I wore my worst clothes." But that evening, Emma received a text. From Daniel. "Hey Emma. I had a great time last night. Would you like to have dinner again this weekend?" Emma stared at the message for a long moment. Then she replied. "Only if I'm allowed to wear another ugly sweater." A moment later, Daniel responded. "You could wear a potato sack and I'd still say yes." Emma laughed out loud. And that second date turned into a third, then a fourth. As they spent more time together, Emma discovered something important about Daniel. Despite his wealth, he believed deeply in kindness. He donated millions to animal shelters, education programs, and community projects. But what impressed Emma most wasn't his money. It was the way he treated people. Waiters, janitors, strangers on the street. Everyone mattered to him. One afternoon, Daniel visited the veterinary clinic to see Emma. While he waited, he watched her comfort a frightened dog that had been hit by a car. Emma sat on the floor with the dog, whispering softly while gently petting its head. "You're okay," she murmured. Daniel felt something warm in his chest. That moment confirmed what he had felt the first night. Emma wasn't beautiful because of clothes, makeup, or style. She was beautiful because of her heart. Months later, during a walk through a quiet park, Daniel stopped near a small lake. "Emma," he said softly. She looked at him curiously. "Yes." Daniel took a deep breath. "You know, the first time I saw you, I already knew you were different." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Even though I looked terrible?" Daniel smiled. "You didn't look terrible." He paused. "You looked honest." Emma laughed gently. "And you fell in love with honesty?" Daniel nodded. "Yes." Then he reached for her hand. "And kindness?" Emma squeezed his hand tightly. Because in the end, their story wasn't about money, fancy restaurants, or appearances. It was about two people who valued something far more important: kindness. And sometimes, the most beautiful hearts are hidden behind the simplest clothes. So if this story reminds you of something important, remember this. Kindness doesn't need perfect outfits. It doesn't need wealth. It doesn't need attention. A small act helping someone, listening carefully, showing compassion can change the way people see the world. And sometimes, it can even change a life. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments here at Kind Choice Corner. Because every day is a new chance to choose kindness. And one small choice can make a bigger difference than you ever imagine.